The sap dripped, thick and viscous, from the ancient heartwood of Arboria. It smelled of life and death, a pungent aroma that clung to Alara's threadbare tunic. Alara, a healer in the sprawling arboreal metropolis, knew that scent intimately. It was the smell of her trade, the lifeblood of Arboria itself, a city cradled within the colossal, centuries-old Great Mother Tree. Arboria was a marvel, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and desperation. After the scorched earth, a cataclysmic war that rendered the surface world uninhabitable, the ancestors had sought refuge in the Great Mother, a tree of impossible size and resilience. Ilara's home was in the mid-levels, a relatively affluent district known for its skilled artisans and, more importantly for her, its access to rare medicinal fungi that grew in the tree's moist, shaded cavities. She lived a solitary life, tending to the sick and injured with a quiet efficiency that earned her both respect and a wary distance. She was good at her job, perhaps too good, considering the secret she harbored. Alara wasn't just a healer. She was also a weaver, one of a small, clandestine group capable of manipulating the Great Mother's sap, essentially controlling it. Her secret had been passed down through generations of her family, a dangerous legacy she both embraced and feared. The power to heal, to coax life from the brink of death, was intoxicating, but the potential for destruction, for severing the very lifeline of Arboria, was equally terrifying. One morning, Ilara was summoned to the upper canopy, the opulent district reserved for the council and the wealthiest Arborians. She usually avoided this place, its air thick with privilege and suspicion. Her patient was Counselor Theron, a stern, imposing man known for his ruthless pragmatism. The diagnosis was clear: heartwood rot, a rare and deadly disease that attacked the Great Mother's inner core. If left untreated, it could spread rapidly, weakening the tree's structure and jeopardizing the entire city. Ilara administered a potent concoction of rare fungi and sap, carefully balancing the ingredients to stimulate the Great Mother's natural defenses. Theron responded well, his breathing becoming more regular, his color returning. Exhausted but relieved, Ilara left the upper canopy, hoping to return to the quiet sanctuary of her workshop. Their leader, Captain Reyes, a man with eyes as cold and sharp as flint, informed her she was under arrest. The charge: attempted assassination of Counselor Theron. Impossible. "I saved his life," Ilara protested, her voice trembling, but Reyes was unmoved. He presented evidence: a vial of altered sap found near Theron's bed, laced with a slow-acting poison. The vial was clearly marked with Ilara's unique weaver sigil, a symbol she used to identify her specialized concoctions. Ilara knew she was being framed. But who and why? She was thrown into the roots, the deepest and most squalid level of Arboria, a labyrinthine network of tunnels carved into the tree's roots. Here sunlight never reached, and the air was thick with dampness and despair. The roots were home to the outcasts and criminals of Arboria, a place where the council's laws held little sway. As she sat in her dimly lit cell, Ilara realized she had two choices: succumb to despair or fight to clear her name. She chose the latter. Her weaver abilities, once a source of pride and fear, were now her only hope. The roots were a hive of activity, a chaotic mix of smugglers, gamblers, and desperate souls. She listened to their conversations, piecing together information, searching for any clue that might lead her to the real culprit. She learned that Theron had made enemies in the council. He was a staunch advocate for strict resource control, a policy that angered the wealthy merchants of the upper canopy, who profited from exploiting the Great Mother's resources. She also heard whispers of a secret project Theron was working on, something related to the scorched earth and the possibility of returning to the surface. Silas was known for his ambition and his willingness to do anything to achieve his goals. He was also rumored to have connections to the Sap Guardians, including Captain Reyes. Ilara knew she had to find Silas. But escaping the roots was no easy task. The Sap Guardians patrolled the tunnels relentlessly, and the inhabitants were often more dangerous than the guards. She befriended a young woman named Lyra, a nimble and resourceful thief who had been imprisoned for stealing food. Lyra was initially wary of Alara, but she was drawn to her quiet strength and her unwavering determination. Together, they devised a plan. Using Alara's knowledge of the Great Mother's anatomy and Lyra's skills as a thief, they navigated the labyrinthine tunnels, avoiding the sap guardians and the dangers of the roots. Alara used her weaver abilities to subtly manipulate the tree's sap, creating diversions and opening hidden passages. After days of relentless effort, they finally reached the mid-levels. Alara led Lyra to her workshop, where she retrieved her tools and ingredients. She needed proof to clear her name, something that would expose Silas's treachery. She knew that if she could uncover what he was working on, she might find the motive behind the assassination attempt. Using her weaver abilities, she tapped into the Great Mother's memory, accessing fragments of Theron's thoughts and research. She discovered that Theron had been studying ancient texts, searching for a way to purify the scorched earth and make it habitable again. He believed that the Great Mother held the key to this process, that its sap contained unique properties that could neutralize the toxins in the soil. Silas, realizing the potential profit in controlling this technology, had tried to seize Theron's research. When Theron refused, Silas had framed Alara for the assassination attempt, hoping to gain access to the project in the ensuing chaos. Alara now had the motive and the means to expose Silas, but she needed evidence, something that would convince the council of his guilt. Nisher. She decided to confront Silas directly. She knew it was a risky move, but she had no other choice. She and Lyra infiltrated Silas's heavily guarded mansion in the upper canopy, using their skills to bypass the security systems. He was gloating over Theron's research notes, clearly planning to continue the purification seed project for his own gain. "I knew you'd come, Alara," Silas said, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "I underestimated your resourcefulness, but it's too late. I have everything I need." He revealed that Captain Reese was in his pay, and that he had used the sap guardians to frame Alara and silence Theron. "You're a fool, Silas," Alara said, her voice steady. "You think you can control the Great Mother? You're playing with forces you don't understand." Lyra, meanwhile, attacked Silas's guards, using her agility and cunning to disarm them. In the ensuing struggle, Alara confronted Silas. She used her weaver abilities to manipulate the sap within his body, causing him excruciating pain. He confessed to his crimes, his voice filled with terror. Just then, Captain Rice and a squad of sap guardians stormed into the laboratory. He pointed his weapon at Alara, but before he could fire, Lyra tackled him, knocking him to the ground. Alara used her weaver abilities to amplify her voice, broadcasting Silas's confession throughout Arboria. The council immediately ordered Silas's arrest and an investigation into Captain Reese's involvement. Alara was exonerated and her name was cleared. Theron, weakened but alive, thanked Alara for saving his life and exposing Silas's plot. He vowed to continue his research on the purification seed, but with greater transparency and oversight. Alara, however, had been deeply affected by her experience. She had seen the darkness that lurked within Arboria, the corruption and greed that threatened to destroy the city from within. She vowed to use her power to protect the Great Mother and to ensure the well-being of all Arborians. The resolution left a lasting impact. The events exposed the corruption within the Sap Guardians, leading to reforms and greater accountability. Theron, humbled by his near-death experience, opened his research to the public, fostering collaboration and transparency. Lyra, now a trusted friend, joined Alara in her work, using her skills to uncover injustices and help those in need, and Alara, no longer hiding in the shadows, embraced her role as a weaver, becoming a protector of the Great Mother and a beacon of hope for Arboria. But Alara knew that the threat to Arboria was not entirely gone. The scorched earth still loomed, and the allure of the surface world remained strong. The purification seed was still a distant dream, and the potential for its misuse was ever present. She knew that the future of Arboria depended on her vigilance and her willingness to confront any threat, no matter how daunting her journey had just begun, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, guided by her conscience and her unwavering love for the Great Mother and the city it cradled.